Okay, so we want to use Redis to do our caching.
Do we?
We do. I'm a fan of Redis. Some people may like it, may not like it. What Redis is it's a key value store. So it's in-memory key value store it's got a very simple API, and you can push data into it and retrieve it on the fly. You can set expirations, and I'll go through some of that stuff.
Because anytime you cache, you have to worry about syncing and expirations.
Yes.
So it allows you to help, gives you some helpers to do that?
Yeah. You can actually, when you set a value inside the cache, you can immediately set how long it's supposed to live for.
Okay.
So if you only want it to live for 5 minutes, you set that and it'll die off in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So again, to install Redis, you would want to use Homebrew. You can look and see if Chocolatey has Redis.
I know Azure has Redis in its own thing too.
Nice. Nice, nice.
Redis, R-E-D-I-S?
R-E-D-I-S.
Not Redis?
Redis. So Redis.
Yep, there's a Redis on Chocolatey as well.
Nice. Yeah, and you can install it straight from the website. I have a Redis CLI here, so I can use the command line to interact with it, and I believe it runs on. I don't remember what port it runs on, whatever. But
6379.
Oh yeah, good call. So it runs on 6379, and so I can connect to it through my application. So let's go about and do that. So
we're simulating. We've got some like large database application in the back end. Our servers are going to take a long time to get data back. So instead of waiting every time, maybe it's only a 5-second call. That's a long time, though, right?
Still a long time.
Getting our customers back if they don't change a lot.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess that's a good point. It's not for data that's dynamic.
No.
It's for data that doesn't change a lot.
Well, I mean, it also depends on the sense of dynamic. Like, how dynamic is it? If it's something that's going to be changing every 10, 15 minutes, or you know that it's going to be changing, there's a couple different strategies. One is, hey, this doesn't change much every 10, 15 minutes, and if the user gets old data and doesn't get the newest data, it's not the end of the world. Obviously not a stock exchange, but like you can use Redis in that sense. You can also tie in your backend system to update Redis and send pushes to Redis when its data changes. Therefore, it'll invalidate the cache in Redis, so you can check and see if it's in Redis. So you can use the cache.
Right, so you keep the cache fresh.
Yeah.
Which is really data synchronization. Yeah. We're not going to do that here, but if I guess dynamicism and then how often you're requesting it is the key. So if I'm going to cache data that is not, it's not static, but it's it's changing maybe once every hour.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea to stuff that stuff in the cache. If I'm going to get a lot of requests in there, maybe I get 1,000 requests in that hour. Yeah. I've just saved all those calls to the back end.
Oh yeah. Saved all the calls and all that data moving back and forth, and you made it a lot faster for your client.
But like your stock exchange or like a product availability, for example, that might be a bad idea. So you try to have an online store like Amazon, and you look at a cache set of product availability. Somebody pays you and gives you money, and you don't actually have the product.
Exactly, 100%. Cool. So let's move through this. We're going to use Redis inside of our pets. So under async, I'm going to say var Redis. Redis.
That's a good point. We could have done this at the dog or the cat level, but you're going to do it between pets and dog and cats.
Yep.
So the pet server is going to use Redis to cache what comes back from dog and cat.
Exactly.
All right.
So we go to require, and we're going to require Redis. So now if I go and look...
Did you have to npm install Redis as well?
I do have to npm install Redis.
So when you installed Redis, that's Redis, but the npm package of Redis is just a CLI to talk to it?
Exactly. So you installed the Redis server is just like Mongo, has to run on your computer or in the cloud or somewhere, and you have to access it. So we're just building it on our local, and then we actually have to include the Redis module and install it in npm.
Right.
So I do npm install.
Just like you had to do Mongoose.
Exactly. And Mongoose actually installs the Mongo modules as well. If I go in through here, I can see my node modules, and if I look at Mongoose, I'm going to see that in this node module, well, I can look at the package JSON. It actually depends upon MongoDB.
Right.
And then if I look at my node modules, it had already installed the MongoDB drivers for me. Okay, so we've got Redis installed. So how do we play with it? So I've already, again, I'm just going to copy the code I've already done and then talk you through it. So it's a little different here. Okay, this pet server is actually, you know what? I don't want to delete this because we're going to push this whole project up there, right? And so I'm going to actually do this one at a time. So we're going to call in Redis and we're going to create a client. So basically, we attach it port 6379, right? And on our local host. And again, this could be something in the cloud or what have you.
And we would actually use configuration or environment variables for all these ports and
of course.
servers. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so let me walk through how I did it here, and then we'll translate it over to our other server. First,
Okay.
let me go back and take dog, and let's make dog take 10 seconds. All right. So again, if I hit the dog server, I got to restart it. Forever list, forever restart, 2043. Okay, so now if I hit my dog server, I should have that 10-second delay again. Perfect. Okay, so now let me show you what happens. If I go and I get this this parameter, forget about the URL, right? And I say client.get. So I create a Redis client, and I'm going to actually look inside the database, and I'm going to look for the ID that I'm looking for. Actually, you know what? Because I am looking for a particular ID, let me move that. So cat name ID, if cat set timeout. So I'm gonna, this is assuming that I'm looking for a particular ID because I want to cache that, not the whole service, right? So if I'm looking for a particular cat, if cat, boom, set timeout. Restart my cat server, forever list, forever restart, 1897. So now if I go to get a particular cat, so let's look at our cats, and I've got this particular ID, and I go to this ID, that's going to take 10 seconds. Again, same idea with the dog server, right? So if I go in and get the cat, you know what, I take it back, I don't want to do that. Let's keep cats and dogs together, and then, because we're going to aggregate it through here, and then we'll cache this dog. Okay, so on this app.get, let me see. When I'm going here and I'm doing my request, this is going to take 10 seconds. This is not, so we're going to cache this request. So forget about all that. We're going to keep the original idea. So if I go into here, I'm going to client.get the...
and client is your Redis client.
Yeah. Client.get, I'm going to look for an actual, well, no, it doesn't make sense because I need a way to know. Actually, I guess I could use the URL. Yeah, that's a good example. All right.
What are you trying to find out?
So I'm going to say client itself is saying, hey, go look in Redis and find me this key.
So somebody was looking for the dog. We're going to first check to see if it's in Redis.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to use the whole endpoint. I'm going to say, instead of, because the example I had done before was for a cat, but we're going to wing it here, and we're going to say, hey, let's go and look for this URI. We're going to put the entire payload in there. So I'm going to say, if someone's, this key, this HTTP localhost 3001 dog, if that is in Redis, so I'm saying client Redis, check and see if it's in cache. So we're going to check first, obviously.
So when you store stuff in Redis, you're not just storing the dog data, you're storing the URL. In this case, that was the key that gets that data.
Or some type of key. So
something to differentiate.
Yeah, if I was going to store like the individual pets, I would probably use their ID. But since I'm using this endpoint, I'm going to store the entire endpoint in Redis.
And that way, when your server looks, it says, hey, you're looking for something /dog/ whatever your API is, you can then use that API as a key in Redis to say, okay, we've already made this call before, and it's only been in 5 seconds. Go ahead and return the same data.
Exactly. All right, so we've got our client here, and that ends here. Client.get. All right, so let's try to make this clean again. So dog, we're going to do a client.get. Copied that code in, okay? So client.get, I'm going to use this again, this string. So I'm saying look inside Redis and find out if this key exists, okay? And then it's either going to give me an error or it's going to give me the dog endpoint. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so it says if there's an error, throw the error. I love this.
Yeah, Command D.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
So if there's a dog, I'm going to say response.json, json.parse dog. So again, it's a key value store, so I can't store a JSON object up there. I have to actually stringify that object and push it into the Redis cache.
So JSON parse is going to turn the JSON object into a string.
The opposite. It's going to turn this is assuming that I got it back from Redis.
Oh, you're getting it in this case.
Yep, and I'm going to parse that string and make an object to send back down to JSON.
Which also means you're going to need to stringify it somewhere.
Yes. So when I go push it up, at this point, when I do client.set, I'm doing a stringify here.
Okay.
Okay, so again, let's walk through the logic. So I've got the dog endpoint, and I'm saying, hey, look in Redis, client.get, look in Redis, and see if this key value, this string exists, this key exists. If it does, then stringify it, turn it back into an object, and send it. So it assumes this means it's already been cached. Otherwise, we have to go get it.
Yep.
So then I'm going to say, okay, go to get this URL. Okay, is that everything? Oh yeah, the ID. So I'm going to get this URL. So I'm going to go to dog, and then again, should be the same thing that I've got right here.
Right. Which is the same request we had before.
Yeah. So 3001, and it says if there's an error, throw error and then return. There's different error handling. Actually, no, I have to do the callback.
Yeah, because now that we're inside of here, when we get the data back, don't we have to do a callback?
Yeah.
For both cases?
Yeah, we're kind of playing fast and loose with this, so let me...
That's okay, this is fun.
Yeah. So now, if I come back here, 3001, I have to call back from my service dog, but then I have to also...
Shove it into the Redis.
Shove it into the Redis. So I have to call back body data, and then I have to say client.set, so that's only the real big change. So here, if we don't have an error, we get a response code back.
This is our good condition.
It's our good condition. Then we're going to client.set, and then we're not going to set the parameter.
Don't we want to call back after the client.set, or does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
We usually want to send the data first. You know what I mean? It'll keep going through.
Right, so it responds faster.
Yeah. So I'm going to set this key, so this URL right here, and I'm going to set it to the stringification of the body that I got back, or in this sense, we're using body data. So I'm going to say body data.
Okay.
If there's an error, throw the error, and then otherwise callback response status. So this should work. Famous last words.
Well, what about on line 33? We didn't have to do a callback up there?
No. So, oh, yes, we do.
Because we're inside of the dog async call. So we're using async to talk to Redis first, and then if that works, great, we call the callback and return back the response. And if that doesn't work, then we call request, which is R, on line, 36?
Yep.
And then when that comes back, we call the callback on whatever line it's on and also stuff it into Redis.
Yep. Very good.
And there's no refreshing of the cache in this particular scenario, which is fine, but it's just getting the first data for now.
Yeah. So it's saying, so this first time through, when we run this, if everything's good and we don't have any errors, we should see it's going to take 10 seconds, and we're going to get dog back. Then any subsequent request is going to come back immediately.
Right.
So let me look, and I think we're good, because the cats takes, the particular cat server still takes no time, right? No. Yeah, and then the dog server still takes 10 seconds. Okay, so now let's do a node mon on our pet server, see if there's any errors.
That's the only one we changed was pet server, so we don't have to restart any of the other forevers.
Yeah. Should we do one more walkthrough before we test it, or test it?
No, let's give it a shot. If there's errors, we'll figure it out.
All right. So I hit pets.
Don't hit your pets.
Don't hit your pets. It's a bad idea.
All right, first time should be 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
This is where we sing the Jeopardy song.
All right, so we got no errors, and we got all our data back.
10.07 seconds.
If I refresh, oh.
Now it's 30 milliseconds.
Oh.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so if we go and look inside of Redis, where did I fire that up? So I'm in Redis, and I say Redis, by doing Redis CLI, and I say show keys, or I think I do keys, stars, different syntax, yeah. So you can see I've got this key in here that's localhost dog. And I think I can get the data too, but I don't remember the syntax. Let me go here. Redis. I think it's just get.
I love cheat sheets.
Yeah.
Get key?
Get key, yeah. So get.
Which is the actual dog, set of dogs you got.
And so you see this JSON object is actually stringified.
Can you organize your data inside Redis? Like I see other data that you happen to be playing with too, but can you organize Redis to say like there's a, like example on a SQL database you have tables?
Yeah.
How do you, what do they call these?
I think you're basically, you just have one big cache. You would probably just set up a separate one. Although I don't know if they namespace the caches. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so with the namespace, you could put them all in the same instance. If not, you'd have to crank up 2 different instances of Redis if you wanted to not mix and match.
Correct. But I think you can namespace. namespace. I mean, it seems like you would be able to.
That's a Ruby.
Ruby. The documentation on Redis is really good too. If I can get.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Redis, and we use it obviously for some odds and ends, but it seems to be the big caching layer that people are using at Node these days.
Yeah.
Or even not just at Node, but even like at Web API with ASP.NET. Hearing a lot these days people using Redis to be able to get their data responses and cache those.
So now if you look here, we still have this in our cache, right? So if I go back here, we're still getting this. But again, we talked before about what happens if this data changes. So there's one sense is that it could push in and validate the cache. But the other way that we can do this is we can set an expiration. And so if I look, oh, I'm on the wrong one. I still need that line. So I can set an expiration of, say, 10 seconds, which means it'll be cached for 10 seconds, and then it'll go back and get a fresh copy. And maybe I'll make that here. So I'll comment that out.
So it's the same command as set, as I've recalled, setx.
Yep.
Same parameters, I assume.
So the first thing is the key. And then the second parameter, so it's weird too, it doesn't do it at the end, it does it as a second parameter. The second parameter is an integer, and that's the number of seconds.
It's not milliseconds, it's seconds?
Seconds.
Okay.
And then there's a set xm, I think that's like or mx or something, that's milliseconds. And then I tell it what I want, which was body dot data. I don't know why I copied that because I just typed it. So now what's going to happen is if this restarts, and we're not going to see any change because we still have that value inside Redis and it never got set here. So we have to actually purge that. So let's go in and purge that. I believe the key is, I'll just do a flush DB and flush the whole database. So if I go into Redis and I flush DB and then I say keys here, I get an empty list. So now if I hit here, it's going to take 10 seconds, and so this is hitting it's got the cat server, it's hitting the dog server, and then when it comes back, I can keep hitting it. So now we're at 21 milliseconds. So I can keep hitting this. So imagine these are all the customers coming in, and they're not waiting 10 seconds, right? They're getting their fast response, and then
when 10 seconds expires, now it takes 10 more seconds.
Now it
to
takes
go get
10 more seconds to go cache it.
Gotcha. And Redis, you said, is in-memory database.
It is.
So that means if we turn off the server and turn it back on, it's gone.
Yeah. So, well, Redis does write out to the file system, so it has a backup mechanism, and you can tell it when to flush and how often it actually does backups. So it does. It's not meant to be for persistent data, but it's robust enough that you could use it for persistent data.
This is really more for what we're doing it, though.
Exactly.
More for this kind of caching or memory type things.
Yeah.
Gotcha.